Today's guest is Tori Halford, a fitness enthusiast who's created her very own lifestyle brand, Tori Elizabeth Fit. So we initially got connected through Instagram, and she was posting these daily HIIT workouts. Saw her gaining some traction that way, and she's definitely a good person to follow if you're looking for a boost of momentum in the morning to get out, get active, and get to the gym. She also provides a lot of insight on beauty and wellness products. So she collaborates with, different brands that she likes to use. And, we talked about keeping a genuine voice in the social media space is super important to her. So, only collaborating with people that she really truly endorses. We also, on top of that, had the chance to dive into some more personal aspects of her life and some things that she's, had to deal with. One being, imposter syndrome throughout the years and how she's been able to get through that. And additionally, as being a D1 athlete, for years you're set up in this kind of strict structure, and you know where the next goal is coming from. She talks about when you get out of college, how you really have to create your own goals and create your own structure. So it was really insightful for me. I hope you guys get the chance to enjoy it. Definitely check her out on her page. She's doing a lot of cool stuff. And without further ado, please enjoy Tori's story. All right, Tori, welcome to the Story to Tell podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. So you have obviously created a very successful fitness and lifestyle brand. So I'm very excited to dive into that. We were talking a little bit earlier. I did notice that you are a former D1 athlete for soccer. So I thought that might be an interesting spot to kick us off on. When did you get involved in soccer, and how did that start?
So I started playing soccer when I was 6, and then started playing competitively when I turned 12. And then played, really, when you go into competitive soccer, I feel like the end goal is always like college soccer, or at least like that's how I kind of took it. And got recruited my sophomore year. I actually had a verbal commit my sophomore year, and I committed to UVU, which is super early for most college athletes to commit somewhere. But we just had a really good class that year, and my whole team was basically committed by our sophomore year.
Wow.
So committed to UVU, and then that's where I ended up going to school there, and I played 4 years there. Was the team captain one year, was WAC, made the WAC team, and we won the WAC twice out of my 4 years. So it was actually a fun experience. Loved soccer. I would go back and do it again. Super fun.
Definitely. So it sounds like you had obviously a leadership role, being a captain. How has that kind of translated in what you're doing now, or maybe coming out of college? How has that helped you in the real world per se?
Yeah, I feel like I was in student government when I was in high school. All 3 years I was in high school, and I feel like the best way for someone to lead is just by example. Like, I'm not a super like rah, let's go, like screaming at the top of my lungs type of captain. I'm more kind of like an introvert, but I think just like the work ethic that I put in, and like the example I've set with my academics and the way I treat other people, and then the hard work that I put onto the field is kind of what makes people respect you. And so I feel like with my fitness page, all I want to do is be an example for other people, and maybe just a motivation for them, because I can tell you each and every way to lose weight or to get more fit, but really it's about you, and if you take the action to do that. So that's what I like to portray in my life, is just to be an example for other people.
That makes sense. And I think that style people are definitely more receptive to. Like you said, you see someone that's setting a high expectation for themselves and setting that standard, and it makes you like feel accountable to yourself, that you want to hold yourself to the same standard. But also, like you said, it's it's personalized, so it's different for every person. So you're not necessarily, whether it be on the soccer field or what you're doing now, you're not like prescribing this is the only way to do it. You're being an example, and like you said, motivating. I think that's an awesome style. It's an awesome approach to take.
Yeah.
I was interested, I was thinking about it from a perspective of like getting out of college and then what you're doing now. There's definitely a lot of like structure in college or just in any like academia. Like when you leave high school, there's this transition period of, there used to be, you'd be practicing for a game, and then you'd be practicing for states or whatever it is, studying for a test, and then you get into the real world and it's kind of like you have to create your own structure. So I'd be interested to hear if that came into play with you at all.
Yeah, so I feel like once I graduated from college, I got married the end of that summer. And then
Mhm.
we actually ended up moving to a different state in Waco. And I kind of like lost my identity a little bit because I was this college soccer player. All I've known is just to play soccer. And
Mhm.
I kind of never developed anything else just because all of my focus was on that.
Mhm.
And so then moving to a different state, not knowing anyone, being a newly married girl, and not having soccer anymore, I like didn't know what to do with my life. I kind of was frustrated a little bit because I didn't know how to, like, even if I wanted to play in a recreational soccer game, like I didn't know how to get myself there in a different
Right.
state with people that I don't know. And that's when I actually started my fitness page, was because I was kind of like wanting to grab anything I could to like be mine. And my husband was the one, he always went to the gym. And I mean, I went to the gym, but it was always like for a soccer workout. I never was
Mhm.
there just for myself. And he started going to the gym, so I started going with him. And then I started this page just to kind of keep accountability for me and to kind of like track my weights and what workouts I was doing. And then actually really started to enjoy myself there. I just have loved working out. I love being active. I love doing anything I can to move my body. And so it was kind of like my natural place for me to go as like the next step in life. And then once it started kind of getting attention is when I really started taking it seriously and being like, okay, this is something that I can really work at and I'm excited to work at. And it's like also a place where I can be creative, where I didn't really get that with
Mhm.
soccer. And it was just kind of like, it kind of just led me to the right direction. So I started this fitness page and I've just loved being able to create workouts, but also being able to work out and to help other people to motivate them. So yeah, that I feel like with any college athlete or any college student at all, I feel like going into the real world after college is so different because you're always like with your friends or you're spending 24/7 with people that you're so close to and you feel like
Right.
your family. And then once you're graduated from college, it's completely different and you kind of feel like alone and you don't know where to start. And you're usually like in a new workplace or things like that. So I feel like grabbing onto something that you love and you want to work at, like my fitness page, is what helped me the most, I would
Definitely.
say.
Yeah, good on you for starting and taking that initiative. And obviously, the best ideas that come to fruition come from, just like you said, naturally being interested in doing it for yourself, primarily at first, and then kind of seeing how it evolved. But yeah, that's interesting. Like soccer obviously was somewhat of like your identity for a while, and then it's like kind of kind of lost afterwards. And it's cool that you found, this new progression, shall we say. um so so you started that fitness page, a little after college. You're doing it full time now, is that right, or do you have a full time?
Yeah, I'm doing it full time. Yeah.
Okay. So when did that become your full-time gig? Like, was it right away or did you slowly kind of transition into that?
Oh yes, definitely slowly transitioned into that. I worked for 2 years. Actually, I worked for probably 3 years after college,
Mhm.
and I just wasn't getting the same. Like when I was at work, I worked for my dad. So it's kind of funny because when I was at work, all I was thinking about like was what can I do for my fitness page? I'm posting on my fitness page at this certain time. Like I really did have a lot of like freedom in my workplace to kind of do that as well as work. And so when it came to a point where it was kind of my workplace was taking time away from my fitness page is when I finally was like, okay, I really need to just make the decision and go all in. And it's been wonderful and great. Would I say that it's like I get paid the best ever? Like every month's different, obviously, because you have like different commissions and things like that with things that you're posting about.
Endorsements.
So
Right.
I am super grateful that I have a husband who's being like, can support me, and it's not fully just my income from this fitness page.
Right.
But I just enjoy my life so much more being able to have my time to focus on that page.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And having freedom and obviously like mental health is, both of those things are incredibly important and definitely get a little bit overlooked. Like having free time to spend, whether it be on your business or on yourself, is like, you can't place a price on that. I'm a big firm believer in that. So I definitely resonate with a lot of things you're saying. I am interested on the business side, like you were talking a little bit about how, you know, if it does fluctuate month to month. Yeah, I'm interested, you know, and you don't have to talk numbers or anything like that if you're not comfortable with it, but just how your like endorsement deals get structured, or how like your partnerships work, and how you went about, I would say, like prospecting your first couple of clients.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of girls, I'll get like DMs from a lot of girls and be like, hey, like I'm just starting a fitness page. What can I do? Or what can I do to grow my account? What can I do to get these sponsorships and all of these things like that?
Mhm.
And when I first started, and that's the thing, like I'm new to, I mean, I've been on Instagram forever, but I'm new
Right.
to like this business Instagram world still, I feel like, and I'm learning new things every single day. But I would say like my first piece of advice that I would tell them is don't be afraid to reach out to companies. Like, don't be afraid to like go into their DMs and be like, hey, I really want to work with you. I love your products. I feel like also it's really good for things that you're already using. Like if you are already using a certain pre-workout that you love, reach out to that company and be like, hey, I love your pre-workout. I want to, you know, promote this for you guys. Is there any way we can get into this sponsorship or things like that? Right.
Right.
So a lot of times when I first was starting out, that's a lot of things that I would do is I would reach out to companies that I was already using, and then hopefully they would say yes. And I got a lot of no's, but I did get a lot of yeses, and then it kind of just starts rolling from there. And then, but a lot of the deals that are structured are usually like you have a code and you promote your code, and then you get commissions off of whatever someone buys from that code.
Right.
So that's why
That's
kind
what I
of
figured, but I just,
yeah.
yeah, you get just a cut of whatever's used from that specific sale. That makes sense.
Completely.
But that is great advice of, you know, putting yourself out there, be willing to, you know, you, like you said, there's going to be a lot of no's, but willing to take that opportunity and just roll with the punches. Like I've sent thousands and thousands of Instagram DMs for prospecting businesses when I was getting started. And yeah, I mean, you can't get like deflected by the people that say no or don't answer. It's like once you get one that says yes, it makes up for 100 no's. It just feels amazing. So, and then yeah, like you said, once you have one, kind of the momentum builds from there.
Well, and it's
So
just like companies that I've reached out to, like when I was first starting, and like now coming, they're reaching out to me. And so it's like this full circle now, right? Of like, oh, I reached out to you and now you're reaching out to me. Like just makes you feel so accomplished and great with what you're doing. So that's why I'm like, don't be afraid, because you never know when they're going to come back around and be like, you know, we'd actually love to work with you. So
that's so true. You put yourself on their radar at least, and then they think of you a little bit later, because there isn't always like an immediate fit. So that
right.
is very validating feeling. What has been, from like a personal standpoint, obviously social media is an amazing tool, and I'm sure, speaking of DMs, I'm sure there's people that, you know, reach out to you and thank you for what you're doing for them as far as inspiring them. What's kind of been the most rewarding part about starting this page?
I feel like making connections is probably the most rewarding. Like I love going, like I just met a friend, one of my Instagram friends, and we went and hung out with her and her husband, and we went like scootering around Salt Lake. And it's just so fun, like to see these connections with people that you know from the internet, because the internet's very like shallow, right? Like it's kind of like first look is like what you get, but then finding these meaningful connections that are actually like friends for life, like that's what I love about this page. It's just the community that it's creating and the people that I get to meet and all the stories I get to share. I've felt super alone kind of on this journey of like infertility with me and my husband trying, and I've been sharing a lot of that on my Instagram. And just to have people come to me and be like, this is exactly what's happened to me. I felt the same way you did, but you know, this is what happened, or this is what helped me, or things like that. So it's not only like I'm helping them, but they're also helping me in my trials and my hardships. So that's what I love, is just that community that you're building.
That is amazing. And it's super admirable, because like what you said, a lot of times some online stuff can seem like it's just vanity and shallow, but to in the opposite sense, like what you're talking about, you're being super open, transparent, and like vulnerable at times. And I think people obviously respect that, and they realize you're, you know, a real, genuine person, not just, you know, faking it. So I think that that's obviously helped you grow that meaningful community. That's great. It's great to hear. So it sounds like you obviously were talking about a little bit how you enjoy having your freedom. Obviously entrepreneurship is like you have the freedom, you also have to structure your time. There's a million different things you can choose to do. It's like prioritizing what's most important. I'm interested if you've always wanted to work for yourself. Have you always had that entrepreneurial mindset?
I haven't. I graduated in accounting, and I just always thought like I would work at a big four, or you know, do something with accounting and then kind of work my way up through the business. My husband is actually a big entrepreneur. He's always had these ideas and these thoughts, and he's always kind of taken charge of himself and never really wanted to work for someone. So I feel like my inspiration is kind of through him, because he's the one that's always like, no, you can do this by yourself, or no, you can, you know, you can create any brand you want. And that's kind of where I get my motivation from, is from him. So he's the example to me, that because I've never been like, oh, I want to work for myself, or oh, I have these great business ideas. Like I always thought I'd kind of just, you know, go into the workplace and work my way up from there. So I'm super grateful for him and like all the ways that he helps me to be confident with this, because I feel like that's what I probably lack the most, is confidence that I can do this, or confidence that I can grow and promote this business, or promote my merchandise, or whatever I'm going to do with this page. You know, I feel like he's the one helping me through all of that.
Awesome. Shout out to him. I'm assuming his name is Tanner because it says Tanner iPad. So
yeah, that's him.
Big shout out to Tanner.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, earlier I was assuming, I'm like, well, right on the money at 1 o'clock. So I'm assuming it's her. We're gonna let it in. That's awesome. Well, that sounds like you guys have a really good relationship where you both kind of help each other out, give each other confidence. And certainly you are doing it. So you should definitely have confidence in what you're doing. Do you ever have that? I know I've talked about this on podcasts with a lot of different folks. And do you ever have that like almost imposter syndrome when you're getting started? I know I certainly felt that way when I was starting my business. I'm like, who am I to like be helping these people with they could probably get someone better, blah, blah, blah. And that's just like, obviously now, once you have a portfolio and validation, it's a lot easier, but when you get started, it can be a little tricky. I'm wondering if you ever struggle with that.
Completely. I feel like I still kind of struggle with that. I feel like you're constantly, with social media, you're constantly comparing yourself to her, to him, and like you see their workouts and you're kind of like, oh, well, like that's really good, or should I be changing my workouts up, or oh, her body looks better, or oh, she's more fit than I am. There's like so many things that I feel like is super hard, but what I come back to is like, not everyone's going to relate to other people. right?
Right.
Like the reason why your followers are there is because they relate to you, they relate to your lifestyle, they relate
Right.
to your workouts. Like, so just being like your true authentic self and showing your vulnerabilities to people, I feel like is the ultimate way to have or to grow your following.
Definitely.
Because that's why they're following you. They follow you because of you and what you're doing, and they relate to you, not to her or to him. And so we need to stop comparing ourselves because of that, because those aren't going to be the followers you get anyways. The people that are following hers because they relate to her more. You know, like I just feel like having different avenues of how to get people to relate to you is the ultimate goal.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I forget who, I think it was Roosevelt. I'm quoting a president right now, but I think he said, I think it was comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And I always think about that quote too, because like you said, it can be very, very easy to look at somebody else's like path or journey that they're on and be like, well, they're already farther in this aspect, or they have more of this, or blah, blah, blah. But you also never really, unless you're, close with the person, you never know what's really going on behind closed doors. So it's hard to, you just want to compare yourself to yourself and continue to get better. And I think, like you said, it's obvious that your community loves you for not trying to be anyone else. It's being yourself.
Yeah.
So how is your training? You were talking, a little bit about different workouts, mixing things up. How has your training evolved like throughout the years? Have you incorporated new techniques, or kind of how's that changed throughout the years?
Yeah, because with soccer, I feel like the best way for you to get fit is running, right? Like we ran a lot, we had fitness tests that involved running. We didn't really lift. I mean, I did in college, but before that, I never really lifted at all. I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of scared of weights a little bit
Yeah.
because there's this perception that you're going to get bulky and all of these things that are not true. I don't know where they
Right.
come from. But yeah, I feel like when I first started working out, all I was focused on was cardio, 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 because that's all I knew. And then slowly started to get introduced into like HIIT workouts or body weight workouts. And this is kind of when COVID was happening as well, was so many people needed workouts from home. And so I started posting workouts from home, and then I kind of evolved into that. And then once I returned back to the gym is when I really wanted to start lifting weights. So then I kind of evolved into that. And now it's more of like the balance of, okay, I was running 5 times a week. I didn't love that. I was lifting 5 times a week. I didn't love that. So now how can I start mixing it up so my body feels the best, I feel the best. So now I probably lift like 3 to 4 times a week and then do cardio 2 to 3 times a week, because that's how I feel my best.
Awesome. Yeah, that's actually, I didn't even think of that, but that time period that you were getting into the space is actually perfect. Like you said, a lot of people are doing body weight and calisthenics and things at home, obviously, because you can work out from a gym.
Right.
I know I definitely had some YouTube HIIT workout channels that I was just going to every day. I'm like, became best friends with these online people. It was pretty funny, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, of course, soccer, it's like primarily cardio stuff. Sounds like now you have a bit of like a hybrid breakdown as far as the percentages. What are you doing for cardio in addition to running? Do you do like biking and swimming, or what other stuff do you do?
Yeah, so a lot of the cardio that I like to do, so I still play soccer. I have games like twice a week, so I count that as my cardio for sure.
Yep.
Other things I really like to do is HIIT workouts. I just like being able to like work out. It's kind of like you're doing push-ups, but you're having
Get
those
your
short
heart rate up.
rests, right? I like rowing, even though that's hard, or the assault bike, or just going for a walk. Like I feel like there's just so many avenues. And the thing with cardio is I don't think there's one person out there that's like, I love cardio, like I love running, like I love being out of air.
Right.
And I just feel like the best way for you guys to do cardio is just do the thing that you enjoy the most out of everything. So for me, like I just love playing soccer. I don't feel like I'm really getting the cardio. So that's why I liked to do the cardio with soccer is because it takes my mind off of the actual cardio, right?
Sure.
Yeah, like finding whatever interests you the most is what you should be doing, because cardio is just hard already to get off the couch and go do cardio.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can kind of put yourself in whatever, like you said, whatever you prefer. Once you get into that flow state where you're either playing, whether it be basketball, football, or soccer, like you said, you're playing a game. So it takes your mind off the fact that your heart rate is absolutely cooking. And even like you mentioned, walks, even like long walks are, I find, so therapeutic, not only physically, but mentally, to just clear your head. And I think that that's super beneficial too.
Yeah, like I love going to the gym and putting it a treadmill on an incline and a walk pace and doing that before I start my workout. And it kicks my butt. I have to say, I love it because it kicks my butt, but it's also, walking is just so enjoyable. You can listen to a podcast. You can, I feel like there's so many things you can do while you're walking. Just connecting with nature, anything. So yeah, I actually go on walks probably once every day just because I love them so much.
That's great. That's good routine to get into. What are you listening to as far as podcasts right now? What's like your go-to?
So I have been super into the Whoop podcast. I don't know if you've heard of Whoop. I'm actually wearing one right now, the Whoop
Nice.
band. I just have been loving the analytics I'm getting from the Whoop band, and I just want to understand them more. So I really like listening to the Whoop podcast because not only does it give you like such a great message, but it usually has like a lesson in it as well for your Whoop band, how to look at your HRV differently, which is your heart rate variability, how to raise your recovery, because that's like, for me as an athlete, like the ultimate thing. If I can be my best every day and have my recovery be 100% and be able to take my body on into strain, then that would be the best thing for me. So I've been listening to the Whoop podcasts. I love them. They're really great.
That's great. Yeah, I have heard that podcast. And immediately when you said Whoop, I just typed down recovery with all stars. Like that was my next transition. So you already beat me to the punch. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you are doing for recovery. Obviously, you're working out, several times a week. So you're having like you're focusing on sustainable functional fitness, and not being completely just cooked and worn out where you can't go the next day. So yeah, what type of things are you doing for recovery?
My number one thing I would say is I always do active recovery days. I feel like soccer helped me a lot with this as well, is because like you get lactic acid, that that's when you're sore. Right. The only way to get that lactic acid out is if you're moving again. So I like to go on walks a lot of times on my rest days. I like to get 10,000 steps every day just to kind of get my legs moving and to walk around to get that lactic acid out. And then stretching, number 2, would be the biggest thing for me in my body. And then drinking lots of water. Those are like my 3 things I always do. It's like active walk, 10,000 steps, and water.
Awesome. Yeah, the hydration is definitely huge. And I feel like the vast majority of people definitely are not properly hydrated. And the other thing is like, in addition to water, like electrolytes are obviously important when you're sweating that much and doing that much working out. So yeah, it sounds like you have a good system in place for sustained success.
Which is weird because I feel like when I was a college athlete, I feel like I didn't drink enough water. I didn't have the right nutrition. Like, it's funny being outside of college soccer now and like learning all these new things with working out, that I'm like, oh, I only could go back and like reapply this to when I was soccer, because there's just so much help it would have done for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's becoming more and more not trendy, but like more at the forefront to care about nutrition, to care about taking care of your body, whereas historically it was just like, no pain, no gain type of thing, which still there's obviously benefits in that as well. But I think that it's, like you said, it's becoming more prevalent, because I look back to at sports and I'm like, we never stretched, or like we half stretched, but no one actually really told us the importance. It could be that as you get older too, you just are more receptive to like those type of that type of advice too.
Right.
Um, do you do anything as far as like sauna or like ice baths, that type of recovery, or do you get into that at all?
Yeah, ice baths for sure. We always took an ice bath when we were playing soccer after every game or every practice. We'd always take ice baths. So I am a true believer in ice baths for sure. I feel like it is harder when you're home to like get
Right.
ice and like, put them in. So I usually don't do them unless I'm like training for a marathon or really exerting my body. Like on the average day, I won't do them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like if I'm training for a marathon or having multiple soccer games in a weekend, then I'll probably take an ice bath then.
Awesome. I did not know you were a marathon runner. I missed that in my research. That's pretty impressive.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a marathon runner. I've only ran one marathon in my life, but it was the hardest marathon in Utah. It was literally, so 13 miles of it was in sand. And then the 13 other miles was like dirt road trails.
Jeez.
But it was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life.
Yeah, that sounds very difficult. I'm sure there was some elevation in Utah too. So
Yes.
that's that's pretty impressive. When did you do that?
So we did that, let me think, last March, not like this past March, but the year before, I want to say in March. Yeah, it's down in Monument Valley, which is kind of like, to give you like an idea, it's kind of like Grand Canyons looking, like red rocks and things like that.
Okay.
So yeah, we did that over down there. It was super fun. Me and my husband did it with little to basically no training.
Wow.
I don't know if you've heard of the Iron Cowboy at all.
Yes.
Okay, so he just did the Conquer 100, which I did run. I guess that was my first marathon I ran, because I did a marathon with him when he was doing his Conquer 100. But he actually spoke to us at a work party, and we were inspired. We were like, we need to do hard things. We need to challenge ourselves. So me and my husband, we signed us up and a couple other friends up for the hardest marathon in Utah. And then we went and ran it probably like 3 weeks later.
Wow, that's amazing. I've seen the like the 50-50-50 triathlon documentary, and then I saw the 100 that he was doing. But yeah, that documentary definitely inspired me as well. I love all that type of stuff. I don't know if you follow David Goggins, but he gives me similar type of inspiration. Makes me want to run through a wall. I've listened to his audiobook way too many times, and sometimes I get into a little psycho mode listening, but it's worth it. But that's awesome. Do you guys have any plans to do another marathon? You think you'll do another one anytime soon, or?
Yeah, I think we'll do another one. I mean, we're not signed up for one right now, but I can definitely say we'll probably run another one, especially knowing my husband. He just always wants to like challenge himself and do things out of his comfort zone. So he did the triathlon with the Iron Cowboy with little to no training too.
Wow.
So I'm sure once Iron Cowboy does another thing, we'll probably go out and do it with him. I don't know, whatever.
Sweet. That's very cool. We need to get Tanner on the podcast too. He sounds like an impressive dude. That's very cool. It's always inspiring to see people that just like push their limits and push their boundaries. And it makes you personally want to do it in your own life. Are there any other kind of inspirations or motivations as far as people that you look up to, or you keep an eye on what they're doing and like use as fuel?
I would say a lot of like Instagram people I look up to, right? Like I want to be like them, but then like in my personal life, I just feel like whoever you surround yourself with is who you're going to be, right? Like if you surround yourself with successful people 90% of the time, I feel like you're going to be successful, or on the opposite side, if you don't, then you're not going to be. So I feel like everyone around me, they just want to be their best self. My parents, Tanner's parents, my siblings, his siblings, and then Tanner and I, and then our friends. Like I just want I just feel like we all uplift each other to be the best that we can be every single day. And that's what I want. Like, I want to challenge myself. I want the people around me to challenge me to be the best person I can be. So I wouldn't say like I have like these big influencers in my life, but I feel like surrounding the people around you to be successful is the ultimate goal. I like want people around me that are always pushing me to be my best.
Absolutely. That's a great mindset. And obviously, yeah, that there's like that infamous quote, like you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most or whatever. Right. And yeah, growing up, I remember like my dad would tell me that, like, it's the company you keep and blah, blah, blah. And it's, again, when you're younger, you kind of just like laugh it off, like, yeah, whatever, it is what it is. But as you grow up, you start to see these trends and you start to notice things that, as you hang out with more successful people and people that truly want the best for themselves and you, that positive network is huge. So that's great to hear that you have a good support system, and you're obviously a positive support system for your audience online as well. So that's kudos to you.
Thank you.
So because you have so many different things going on and you're kind of wearing a lot of different hats, if you have like a day where you're feeling out of it or a little down, what's something that is your go-to as far as like recharging your batteries to make you feel better?
But this is funny because I kind of feel like I'm in this place right now, where I was kind of, on Instagram every single day and doing my fitness page. And then we actually took a vacation to Lake Powell, which is like the prettiest, it's my favorite spot in Utah, Arizona, prettiest lake ever, but there's no service out there. So we took a week off. I didn't have service. I didn't post on social media. And then like coming back home, it was really hard for me to like get back onto the social media grind. I think because there is so much anxiety and like comparing yourself to other people that comes with social media, that once you get away from it for a week, you're like, wow, I feel so good. Like I feel so free. I don't feel the pressure of posting anymore. And so I actually, like right now, I'm feeling I'm just doing like a recharge. Like, not that I'm off of it all the time. Like I still have work to do. I still have things that I need to get done. But I feel like taking that time, like posting something and then just getting off of social media and not scrolling has always helped recharge. And then, or just taking a couple of days off. Like, I feel like sometimes we think like, oh, it's my income and I have to post and I have to do this, or I have to look at this person's picture. And that's not the case. Like, you can take 3 days off. You can leave your phone down to recharge. I feel like when you're mentally 100%, then you can give 100% to yourself on your fitness page. Like, I don't want to get on my fitness page and be drained and then, maybe drain other people as well while I'm doing that. Like, I'd rather be 100% and then come back and be like, okay, I took a break and it was the best thing that I did for myself. So I could be 100% there for my followers.
Definitely. Yeah, it can definitely be exhausting and a bit taxing. I obviously have, as like a digital marketer, have a lot of social media accounts that I manage, and yeah, it definitely adds up. But to your point, on a personal level, when you leave your phone for a couple of days, or even you just leave it for a couple of hours, I used to personally have this feeling like, oh, I'm going to miss out on all these different things. Like, of course, when my phone's off, someone's going to call me with a great opportunity that I miss, whatever. And you quickly realize after doing it a couple of times, it's like you very rarely miss anything significant, like very rarely. But yeah, that sounds like a smart move to kind of separate a little bit from it. There's actually a book I would recommend to you to check out that's called Digital Minimalism. And it kind of just, it's by Cal Newport, I believe his name is. And it just talks about, being intentional with your time digitally. So, and not feeling, those pressures. So he talks about like creating more than you consume. Some like that's kind of like the tagline. But anyways, it sounds, yeah. So we talked a little. Now I'm like thinking, I keep thinking about the marathon thing that you guys did. That is like little to no training. That is super impressive. I'm like keep wanting to dive into that. But
Well, I
um
feel like for me, it was kind of easy just because of soccer. Like you're running
you have
basically
a
13
base.
miles a game. Like I got the half marathon under my, like I feel like for
Mhm.
me, it was just like muscle memory. But for someone like my husband who doesn't run basically ever, I'm sure it was a lot harder for him to do it. I think if I was him, I would have been too scared and not signed up. But for
Yeah,
me, I was like, oh, it's just running 2 soccer games.
right. Yeah, that's true. The kind of like aerobic base for you is definitely already there.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but still through that environment, through those conditions, sounds like it'd be like a whole different world. So
Yeah.
kudos again to you guys. Um, so you talked about like a few the podcasts you were listening to, the Whoop podcast. Do you have what's kind of on your playlist right now as far as music for your workouts?
I'm loving Olivia Rodrigo recently. I mean, she's basically everywhere, so
Right.
mainstream. But that's who I personally loved. I like always talking to my followers about like I'm not like rap or like super, I don't know the word for it, like super motivating music, I guess. Like I'm really working out for me is kind of like an emotional thing. Like if I'm upset that day and I listen to sad music while I work out, like that to me is
Mm.
just freeing and it kind of like gets rid of those emotions for me. So I joke around with my followers all the time. Like if you want to listen to my in my feels playlist for my gym, that's like more of the music that I listen to, like this
Yeah,
sad, kind of slow music. But for me, it's like helps me cope. It's like my therapy.
gotcha.
So that's kind of like what my music playlist looks like.
That's funny. Yeah, it's like you're gonna have people breaking down in tears doing your workouts.
So true.
It's funny though, because there's definitely people that love like, DMX and Wu-Tang, like they have to have it
Yeah.
blasting, like, and then I work out with some other friends of mine that are listening to like acoustic guitar, super mellow, like as they're benching and like, whatever floats your boat, whatever does it.
Whatever works for you. Listen to it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So any things on the horizon that you're excited about right now? Any like brand partnerships or anything that you're working on that you're looking forward to?
So my first goal, I would say, for the end of this year is I'm working on a website and a program all by myself. So since I'm working on all by myself, it's kind of taken a long time because I'm figuring out how to design a website and things like that. But those are probably the projects that I'm most excited for is that. And then coming soon next year will probably be merch that you can purchase, probably some sweatshirts that
Nice.
will be coming out this winter. I'm hopefully. So those are the things I'm probably working on the most right now.
Very cool. Definitely put me down for at least one hoodie. And anytime I buy a hoodie, my girlfriend takes it. So probably two hoodies.
Too.
Yeah, I've literally lost like 4 or 5 hoodies and it's they're all in her closet. So yeah, we'll probably end up doing 2 hoodies when you launch.
Well,
Um,
perfect.
but that sounds exciting. So the program you're putting together like training plans, that type of thing.
Yeah, like a program. I want to come out with like a home workout one because I feel like during COVID, that's where I gained a lot of my followers was like through home workouts that don't really want to go to the gym. And
Yep.
then I want to do a different one for like lifting. But my first one will probably be more like body weight, hit exercises, maybe a couple of dumbbells. And then my next one will probably be more of a gym workout guide.
Awesome. Yeah, you kind of hit both markets there. That's smart. Um, awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you very much. That was all I had, and it ended up being, I think we got into a lot of cool stuff that I wasn't necessarily anticipating, and I'm glad that we got to kind of tap into everything. Definitely was a fun combo.
I'm super excited. That was fun. It honestly just felt like a conversation. Like I was a little bit nervous that I'm like, oh, I need notes. I need things that I need to touch on. Like,
Yeah.
I know, but I was like, no, that was great.
Yeah, I'm glad. That's like been my goal in doing this. So it's funny. I actually started doing the podcast stuff around a similar time was during COVID because I was talking to clients and friends so often on Zooms, and I was like, I've always wanted to do a podcast and just reach out to people that are doing interesting things. So I was like, why not? While everybody's home, it's like everybody's using Zoom. Let's just use this as an opportunity. So the first season was kind of like me, my clients, and my friends. And then this second season has been like branched out a lot from that.
Yeah.
And now it's like taken a life of its own where we're getting like some sponsorships and stuff. So it's crazy,
So
but it's
exciting.
just, yeah, but it's just like that's what I wanted it to be, is like just having a real conversation. Those are for me the podcasts that I like the
Yeah.
best, because it's
I
just
love podcasts because I feel like when there's like a camera on you, you're acting a certain way. Like you're trying to present yourself in like this light through social media. I mean, all of us do, right? Like we're all
right,
like, I want to portray my perfect life.
like
But
a
I feel like
highlight.
with
Yeah,
podcasts, you kind of get rid of that camera and it's more of just a conversation. And then that's when you really like, I feel like, find out who people's authentic self is through podcasts. Like there's just so many things that you can get into on podcasts or get to know people more on podcasts. And that's why I love listening to podcasts, because I feel like they're just so real.
right. It's authentic, and there's nuanced takes. Like you hear people's personality more than you do on like, you can get your personality across for sure on like a post, but if it's
Right.
just like a still photo, it's like you're not really, unless you know the person, there's only so much you can do with like a clever caption. It's like you
Totally.
actually get to,
I'm like, oh, hey guys, like buy this. It's my code's Tori 15. Like I feel like people aren't really knowing me, you know? It's like
Mhm.
when you get on and you share like, oh, my infertility, or oh, like I'm going through something hard. That's when people really get to know you. And that's why I like podcasts, because you can like go into more detail on those things.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that we got to, and I was partially joking, but the more I think about it, I definitely am going to try to get Tanner at some point too and
You
come
really
on.
should.
Sounds like
He's
a cool
so
dude.
like business guy, like your
Awesome.
total business. He's a VP at a solar company. He is really into investing, so I feel like he's really knowledgeable in that, and he's really big on like mentors. Like
Mhm.
I feel like he's so much more interesting than me. So
Yeah. Well,
you
you
should
guys are
look at him.
power couple. You guys are a power couple. Well, that's perfect actually, because this in season 3, like basically I'm splitting it up where I have like some CMOs and like a CEO and some different business minded folks. And then I also have a lot of fitness
Yeah,
folks. I think it's just, partially because that's what I'm personally interested in, but
completely.
the audience that I've created obviously is big into business, but then I'm starting to see that, people are really into physical fitness as well. So
Well, and
it's
that's why I like the Whoop podcast too, is because it's like it's not only just like athletes and their analytics, it's like CEOs and their analytics too, and like how it incorporates with your recovery still, like having a more stressful week at work is more, or you have lesser recovery than running a marathon. Like there's so many different aspects that come into it, that that's why I like hearing from like multiple different people, but we're all interested in like the same, successful model.
right. I might pick your brain about marathon, even though, you, like you said, you had the base, but I'm actually training for a half marathon in
Okay,
October.
yeah. Yeah.
So I'm super, super excited. It's not like a big deal for anybody else, but half marathon to me is a long distance. So it's I'm excited for it. But what you said is true. Like certain weeks I just have like a Fitbit, and I'll notice like if I have obviously like long nights where I'm working and I don't get as much sleep, like my workouts definitely feel it the next day. Like I'm
Totally.
not as well recovered, and it's like there's just so many different components that you have to take into consideration. Like when I used to work out, you could just kind of when you're younger, you can get away with whatever. But now it's like you gotta really
True.
take care of yourself.
You really, getting old is hard.
Yeah,
Getting old, having to like actually take care of your body is hard and
yeah,
time consuming.
exactly. But it's worth it. Ultimately,
Totally.
it is worth it. Well,
Completely.
thank you again so much. And
You're
yeah, we'll be in touch.
perfect. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, have a good rest of the day and hope you are feeling fully recovered soon.
Hey, thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You too.